Did you know that you can help a student excel in a course that you have not yet taken? I used to think this was impossible until I met Sam. Although Sam had never taken the particular course for which I needed a tutor, she was nevertheless recommended by a professor. Curious, I asked Sam how she could help a student in a course she had not taken. Her response was thought-provoking. She said, "If I have access to the student's notes, the text, and the syllabus, I can identify what they need to know." Sam's impressive tutoring skills, despite her lack of direct experience with the course, opened my mind to a new perspective and introduced me to metacognition. Let me explain what metacognition is and its crucial role in academic work. Then I'll share how you can apply metacognition to become a better student, learner, or academic assistant. Metacognition is a non-observable variable that occurs in our minds, so it can be a little confusing and difficult to grasp. It's kind of like gravity. We see the effects of gravity so profoundly that we believe we can actually see it, but we can't. So what is metacognition? Metacognition is commonly described as thinking about thinking, but its true power goes well beyond this narrow definition. To gain a comprehensive understanding of metacognition, let's explore a broader and more encompassing definition. Metacognition involves being aware of our internal processes, mental states, and conditions as we interact with information and tasks throughout our learning environments. In the classroom, students receive content, but they are ultimately assessed on what they can do with the content. The greater the gap between the content they receive and the outcomes they must produce, the more cognitive force and agility they must apply to their academic work. Metacognition sheds light on the relationships between the academic outcomes students are expected to achieve, the strategies and efforts they employ to tackle their tasks, and their internal thought processes while engaging with the content. By improving the metacognitive conditions of their work, we can significantly enhance and accelerate students' learning and performance. As a metacognitive helper, your role is crucial in supporting students to work more effectively. You can achieve this by assisting them with 3 critical tasks. Number 1, utilizing course material such as learning outcomes to help students identify clear learning objectives and set proper destinations for their learning journey. Number 2, guiding students in developing their thinking skills, empowering them to strategically use their cognitive abilities and resources. And number 3, assisting students in establishing clarity and coherence between the content they learn in class and the desired outcomes for their courses, bridging the gap between knowledge acquisition and academic achievement. By incorporating these 3 elements into their daily routines, students will become proactive managers of their own learning and gain greater control over their academic performance. As a metacognitive helper, you play a pivotal role in nurturing students' metacognition, leading to improved learning outcomes and increased academic success. Cognition and metacognition go together like music and silence. We think of music as the audible sounds we hear. Sound is the external appearance of music that captures our attention. It has features that can be characterized and described. But silence also plays a major role in music. The silence that is interspersed between the sounds determines the rhythm and appearance of music. So sound and silence work in harmony to produce music. Cognition and metacognition work together in a similar way. Cognition, or our thinking, is explicit and can be described. Metacognition, on the other hand, is implicit and is quite difficult to describe, but you can't have one without the other. Cognition is our thinking. Metacognition determines the conditions of our thinking. Researchers define cognition as the mental activity and process of acquiring knowledge through the application of thought, experience, and the senses. Metacognition is defined as the mental activity that informs and directs explicit cognitive thinking. A broad range of interpretations of metacognition can be found in the cognitive psychology and cognitive science literature, but they generally boil down to an individual's active participation in his or her thinking processes. So metacognition dictates cognition. Metacognition makes up the roots of success and performance. Think of learning as having 3 levels. The content exists on the most surface level. Students' cognition, or how they think about the content, is just below, and metacognition flows from the deepest level. It is the most formative part of students' mental work. It creates the environment for how students will think, for how students will interpret discrete academic experiences, and how students will use their cognitive resources throughout their learning process. There are 4 components of metacognition that you will want to keep organized in your mind. We'll use representative symbols to help you keep track of them as we move forward. Number 1, metacognitive knowledge. Number 2, metacognitive awareness. Number 3, metacognitive skills. And number 4, metacognitive experiences. We'll use the light bulb to represent knowledge, a yellow ribbon for awareness, a blue key for skills, and a green check mark for experiences. Remember, keep these symbols in mind throughout each video. Now, in the next video, we'll amplify these 4 components. What separates high-performing students from the pack? Research suggests that students in the same class who study the same material for the same amounts of time and who possess relatively similar cognitive abilities can perform drastically different based on the metacognitive conditions that exist in their minds. You may have heard that knowledge is power, but metacognition is a superpower. And students, educators, learning assistants, and parents who effectively use metacognitive elements in academic work make learning more attainable and rewarding. In this video, I'm elucidating a basic element of metacognition: metacognitive knowledge. Metacognitive knowledge, also known as meta-knowledge, is an accounting of one's thinking processes, mental states, dispositions, and more. Metacognitive knowledge can be categorized in 3 forms: declarative knowledge, procedural knowledge, and conditional knowledge. Let's quickly examine each of these elements and explore ways that each type of knowledge may manifest in academic work. Declarative knowledge is our what knowledge. It involves knowing what to do. Declarative knowledge encompasses factual information about ourselves as learners and factors that influence students' performance. For students, knowing that you study best in the mornings is a type of declarative self-knowledge, while knowing that an upcoming assessment will require you to heavily analyze and evaluate material is a form of declarative knowledge about the task. When you combine these 2 elements of metacognitive knowledge, you have data to influence your performance. Procedural knowledge is our how knowledge. It entails knowing how to do something. Procedural knowledge about ourselves may be knowing a specific method to use when studying in the mornings, a go-to routine to follow. Procedural knowledge about the task may be knowing how to effectively analyze and evaluate content. As you can see, I have combined declarative and procedural knowledge about ourselves and the task. As you can imagine, developing procedural knowledge is more advanced than possessing declarative knowledge. However, conditional knowledge is the most challenging type of knowledge. Conditional knowledge is our when and why knowledge. It refers to knowing when to use specific knowledge, procedures, skills, or strategies based on the given conditions. For example, when a student in a chemical engineering class recognizes that she must use a formula that she learned in calculus is evidence of conditional knowledge at work. In my experience, students can acquire high levels of declarative knowledge through studiousness, hard work, focus, and sound study skills. Students can develop procedural knowledge through practice and repetition. However, conditional knowledge requires a more strategic approach to academic work. Many diligent, capable students struggle in academic work because they lack conditional knowledge. They know stuff, meaning that they have stored knowledge in their mental warehouse. However, when the informational cues that direct them to access the stuff they have stored are missing, then they are unable to do the work that is before them. As a student, educator, learning assistant, or parent, it's crucial to assess the quality of students' metacognitive knowledge, as it can lead them to make drastically different decisions that shape their academic paths. Understanding the strengths and weaknesses in students' metacognitive knowledge empowers students to learn more productively, and it enables helpers to provide targeted support and interventions that can enhance students' overall learning experience. In conclusion, metacognition serves as a powerful superpower that goes beyond traditional knowledge. Students' metacognitive knowledge impacts their thinking, emotions, and their decision-making processes during academic work. Recognizing and addressing the quality of metacognitive knowledge among students is instrumental in fostering their growth, enabling them to think, learn, and perform extremely well. When people refer to students' metacognitive knowledge, they are referring to their declarative knowledge. Students' metacognitive knowledge shapes how they think and feel while doing academic work, and how they think and feel about themselves as academic agents. Metacognitive knowledge plays an enduring role in students' perceptions of themselves as learners. It functions as a filter that determines whether students attribute occurrences to personal, task, or strategy characteristics. Their whichever category students' metacognitive knowledge is filtered has enduring consequences, because students will make conscious decisions based upon this subterranean activity. For example, Jamal, Darren, and Liz each believe they are not good writers, but their metacognitive knowledge leads them to make very different decisions, and their decisions take them down drastically different academic paths. Jamal believes he is not a good writer, so he decides to devote extra time to his upcoming writing assignment. Jamal's belief that he is not a good writer bypasses his personal characteristic and filters to his task characteristic. I am not a good writer. However, he believes he can compensate for his lack of writing skill by a strategy characteristic, devoting more time to the task. Jamal's decision to do the writing assignment despite his belief that he is not a strong writer is a cognitive level decision. Jamal makes this decision consciously. However, he is unaware of the metacognitive level factors that inform his decision. That is an example of how healthy metacognitive knowledge operates. Now, let's look at what destructive metacognitive knowledge looks like. Darren also believes he's a poor writer, but he decides to skip this specific writing assignment and any future writing assignments in this or his other courses. This decision to skip the writing assignment is a cognitive level decision that Darren consciously makes. However, a different set of metacognitive conditions take him down a different path. His belief that he is not a good writer is informed by metacognitive knowledge that is attributed to task characteristics. I am not a good writer. However, he lacks an appealing strategy to improve his writing. He does not believe that working harder will help him, so he decides to skip the task. His metacognitive knowledge is informing him that he cannot improve as a writer, so he uses a psychological face-saving strategy of avoidance to escape the pain of failure. Let's look at one more example of an even worse possible filtering situation. Liz is so frustrated by the writing assignment that she is considering withdrawing from school. Liz's contemplation of withdrawing from school is a cognitive level decision that is unknowingly being triggered by an even more destructive set of metacognitive conditions. Her belief that she is not a good writer is informed by metacognitive knowledge that she is generalizing to herself as a person. Liz believes her poor writing skills is an indicator that she is not cut out for college. Because she does not see her writing struggles as a task characteristic, I am not good at writing, or a strategy characteristic, I lack a specific writing strategy or skill, she attributes her lack of success to a personal characteristic, I am not cut out for college. It's important to remember that while Jamal, Darren, and Liz are making cognitive level conscious decisions, they are not aware of the metacognitive knowledge that is informing their decisions. Where does metacognitive knowledge come from? Are some students inherently equipped with better metacognitive knowledge than others? How do students acquire metacognitive knowledge? And can we change students' metacognitive knowledge scripts? This segment addresses these questions. Students acquire metacognitive knowledge from three sources. It either emanates from their naive and ill-formed belief systems about learning, it seeps in from the judgments and feedback of other people, such as teachers, parents, and peers, and it is inferred through metacognitive experiences. Metacognitive experiences are emotion-driven inferences students make based upon affective experiences such as fondness, curiosity, and disappointment. Metacognitive experiences can be positive and helpful or negative and destructive. Researchers have discovered metacognitive activity in humans from as early as age 3. So we can be assured that by the time students become college age, they have a well-established metacognitive knowledge base, which can either help or hurt them. For example, David struggled with school early on in life. However, through hard work and learning new strategies, he improved his performance and is now viewed as a good student. The judgments from his teachers in the form of good grades and positive statements from his parents and peers shape the belief he has of himself as a strong student. Furthermore, he deduced from his early experiences that he can overcome academic struggles through hard work and proper strategy execution. The accumulation of fond affective feelings infused David with positive metacognitive experiences that manifest as positive metacognitive knowledge. This metacognitive knowledge constantly plays in the background of David's mind. On the other hand, Paul was an excellent student throughout his early years. He was told he had an excellent photographic memory. As a result, Paul developed several memory-based strategies for learning. His parents, teachers, and peers were constantly lauding his academic skills. He deduced from these positive experiences that he is a great student and that learning is easy. Paul enters college feeling confident about himself as a learner. However, early on in college, he struggles for the first time. He can't understand why his grades won't improve despite studying more than ever before. Paul's academic struggles are drowning out his optimistic metacognitive script that learning is easy and that his great memory skills will sustain him. The rapid accumulation of negative metacognitive experiences triggers Paul to question his academic abilities. For the first time, he begins to believe that perhaps he's not a strong student. The accumulation of negative judgments about his performance in the form of poor grades overpowers the positive metacognitive knowledge that Paul has operated on thus far. Paul now has negative metacognitive knowledge that is informing him that he is not college material. It's important to keep in mind that Paul and David's metacognitive activity is occurring on an unconscious level. Neither student would connect their academic situation to their metacognitive knowledge. More than likely, they would strongly attribute it to other factors. Metacognitive awareness is students' mindfulness of the interplay between their metacognitive activity and cognitive processes, and how these factors influence their thinking and feeling during academic work. Students must awaken to their metacognitive activity before they can develop metacognitive skills and ultimately control their thinking and feelings while doing academic work. Paul's feelings of frustration and despair over his continued underperformance are rooted in negative metacognitive experiences. His feelings are raw and real, and they fuel his negative view of himself. The onslaught of metacognitive negativity has switched Paul's optimism to negativism. Metacognitive assistance involves making these processes explicit to students, providing a language to articulate these experiences, and then equipping students with tools to improve their metacognitive skills. Making students aware of the metacognitive activity that is directing their thinking and performance is a vital first step for educators. We want to move students from awareness to control. Metacognitive skill is the fourth pillar in managing one's learning. Metacognitive skills are students' ability to monitor, guide, direct, and control their learning, and to strategically solve problems regarding their learning as they arise. Students typically exhibit metacognitive skill at one of three academic work phases: preparation at the start of an activity, during the activity to monitor their execution, or after an activity as a reflective or evaluative tactic. Metacognitive skills cannot be directly assessed. They must be inferred from their behavioral consequences. For example, if a student decides to reread a passage of text for greater comprehension, then we can infer that the student's metacognitive evaluation skills judged her reading as inadequate, and as a consequence, she activated a cognitive strategy of rereading in an attempt to increase her comprehension. This example shows the constant interplay between metacognitive skills and cognitive functioning.